Alrighty guys, we are headed into the match now. The problems have been resolved, we talked about it, we'll talk about it in just a second. There we go. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the first game between Bumblebee aka Terius and his opponent Avenge Zerg versus Protoss, and the first game in this best of 3 is going to take place on Metropolis. We had to restart the game as Bumblebee had some problems with his keyboards. That's why we had a pause upon starting the game for the first time. So let's see if, but everything looks fine right now. And we are on Metropolis, which is obviously a little bit of an upset for a player like Terius because he is playing a Zerg, Bumblebee that is, his new ID, and he is facing a Protoss player. And we've seen a lot of matches in the GSTL on Metropolis. We've seen a couple of matches in Coday. So the one problem that you have with with Metropolis as a Zerg player is that there are a couple of pushes that are really strong on this map. We already have the forward pylon, not the forward pylon, but at the bottom of the ramp in order to make sure that he gets his expansion up for our Protoss player. And there's this gap that you can secure with only a couple of buildings. You can make sure that you have a very easy second base, and this is what we usually see by all Protoss players out there. The Zerg's build usually evolves around the gases expand with the pool and with a hatch after that. So this is probably what we are going to see by Bumblebee. He's already headed down at the bottom. A little bit of an odd timing. There's no chance that he can place down a pool that fast, but he's trying to force the pylon of his opponent. That's exactly what's happening, and the forge already in position at the wall end. The main problem for Zerg is that the most potent build for Protoss evolves around a build on 2 bases. You get a very early robotics and you start building immortals, and you back them up with gateway units. As soon as you hit like 3 immortals and you have 1 warp prison, then you move out with your army. You have most Protoss players execute the build with an amount of 10 to 11 sentries, and then you can get into a position where you can just force field your opponent's ramp, where you have a lot of small gaps of bottleneck positions where the Zerg has a really hard time moving through without being caught within the force fields. So this is something that is very strong. Bumblebee now taking his third. His natural is blocked. He will kill the pylon with the first few Zerglings that he's building right now and take the third base, trying to destroy the rock in the backs and then start spreading his creep, because he knows fully well that with spreading his creep he will be in a better position defending against the push of the Protoss player. And it's just the bread and butter build that we've seen so far on Metropolis. So I expect Avenge to transition into a robotics after he secured his second base and try to get this immortal count and then attack Bumblebee. This is going to be a really potent push, and that's just something that is so hard to deal with. The +1 attack upgrade for the Protoss player is something that is integrated in the build, and that enables the Protoss to warp in whatever he needs in order to adapt to the Zerg player's army composition. If there are a lot of Zerglings, we will see more Zealots in order to use the +1 attack upgrade, because they can 2-hit the Zerglings. If there are a lot of Roaches, then the Stalker count will be that much higher. And this is just something that is really hard to deal with, especially because this particular timing you don't have any anti-air. So you can't really take down your opponent's warp prison, and therefore it's being quite hard to interrupt the flow of units that comes out of the Protoss player's warp gate technology. So let's see if this is what we are seeing this game, or if Avenge is actually trying to mix it up a tiny little bit. But games on this map usually evolve around this push and the defense for the Zerg player. So yeah, let's see if that's going to happen. We already have the second base up and running for Avenge. The same thing is true for our Zerg player at the bottom left. Bumblebee Prime now with his second base is trying to get the third, and the rocks are obviously being assailed by 1 Zergling. This is a little bit of a pretty hard show. It will take like ages to kill the destructible rocks. I actually don't know if someone at some point tried to calculate how long it would take 1 Zergling to take down destructible debris, but I'm pretty sure that it would be like 5 to 10 minutes, a pretty long time. The third base is being built now, and the +1 attack upgrade is now being researched for Avenge, the Xenix player, and let's see if we are going to see robotics very soon. We already have 150 gas, and I suspect that as soon as he hits 200, there's the robotics. Robotics already being built. There it is. Okay, robotics facility is being built right now, and we will see the immortals very soon. The +1 attack upgrade has been spotted. There are overlords in position. They won't be able to spot the robotics facility, but this is what Bumblebee is expecting now. This is the build that has been so dominant in Protoss versus Zerg on Metropolis. So let's see what Bumblebee is doing in order to defend against it. There's already been one Spinecrawler build, just to make sure that he is in a position where he can defend against early on attacks. Maybe if Avenge would try to go for some kind of a 4-gate push. We have the destructible debris within reach of the Spinecrawler as well, and the lair tag before, well, actually at the same time as the metabolic boost. And let's have a quick look. There's the Warp Prism already being built for Avenge, being chrono boosted. He saved up some energy on his Nexus in order to make sure that he can chrono boost the Warp Gate, the Warp Prism as fast as possible. The Overlord will die, sees the robotics facility, but has no idea that there's a Warp Prism, and now Avenge will be able to put some pressure onto Bumblebee with the sentries and the Warp Prism as well, if he wants to. That leaves his wall in kinda defenseless. He isn't he has a slight problem that he can't use any force fields if there was some kind of a bust, but that's not what's going to happen, so he will be pretty safe, and the first immortals are already being built. And it's kind of curious to know that he's going for the robotics bay immediately, so he's not going for this straightforward immortal push, but is trying to transition out of it immediately. And we have now the first few roaches being built. Metabolic boost is halfway done, the lair tech is done, and we have lings and roaches being produced, as well as the speed for the roaches themselves. Here comes the drop play. Does he react in time? Bumblebee does see it, and oh, he needs to be very careful. Yeah, retreating upon arrival, and just spots immediately that he can't do anything with the Warp Prism, and he needs to be a little bit careful right now because there are already a bunch of queens trying to target down the Warp Prism. No force fields trapping the drones, so without doing any damage at all, Avenge is now retreating. And he's going for the first Colossus already. He only has one immortal, so he's going for a different timing push than we are used to on this map. But extended thermal lens has been started. And the thing that we should note is that Bumblebee is not expecting Colossi now. He just expected the push that we've been talking about, especially with the Warp Prism already being visible. That is the one thing that he suspects his opponent to do. So we don't see a Spire. We don't see any follow-up because he is not aware of what's happening right now. And there's the one Overseer, and he spots the robotics bay. He spots the robotic bay, not the first immortal, but he sees there's a robotics bay. He knows there's extended thermal lens being researched. So now the hand has been shown, and our Protoss player is definitely forced to attack very soon. Taking down the destructible rocks, more and more roaches are being built now. No Spire being built just yet. He doesn't have the gas yet, and we have more hatcheries. In total he has 4 hatches. He has enough lava to produce as many units as need be. 53 to 47 harvesters right now. And still, wow, nice, spotting the small force, this run-by force that was positioned by Bumblebee in order to put a little bit of pressure onto Avenge's main base as soon as the Protoss player decides to move out. And this is one of the things that you should do if you try to go for some kind of timing bush. Always make sure that you have a couple of units in the back so that you can target your opponent and force him to retreat. 30 Zerglings are being built, a lot of roaches. He had 37 roaches and 50 Zerglings right now. Adding 20 additional ones, that will put him to 70 Zerglings. And this is 176 supply in total against 113. And now we have Avenge moving out, but with 3 Colossi, which is obviously huge, and not a single Corruptor. So this is a very nice push, but he invested a lot of gas into the Colossi, and therefore he only has 7 sentries and 1 immortal. Second immortal being built. There's the Warp Prism, warping in another units, a ton of Stalkers. This is going to be a really big army. 122 supply against 81, but the army composition is just beautiful. There are the force fields trying to trap him, and he's moving up the ramp. Then he can force field this main base. It is doomed, and Bumblebee is doing the only thing that he can do. He is moving out. He is trying to attack his opponent's main base. He's going for a base trade scenario, and this is the only thing that he can do. He knows fully well he can't defend his main base. Oh, here we go. There are 4 cannons, the bunch of sentries. Where are the force fields? He needs them. He uses them as soon as the buildings are dead. and the cannons in the back dishing out a lot of damage, but will it be enough? At the same time, we have the main base being killed. The lair is already gone. The whole tech has been evaporated, and he's moving on to the natural expansion in order to take it down. At the same time, the roaches finally break through, but there are sentries and sentries just trying to block the ramp, and one immortal in the back with 10 kills already. There's a Colossus as well. He needs more sentries. He still has a couple of force fields left, and there should be another one very, very soon. There it is. The expansion is gone, but at the bottom we have just tons of Colossi and Stalkers trying to break through the amounts of Spine Crawlers produced at the third base. Bumblebee is losing ground. He lost the main base, he lost the expansion, and the Protoss player now moving into the third base, trying to take on his opponent's Spine Crawlers. There the hatchery, it's dead and gone. The last mining base for Bumblebee is dead. 96 supply against 127. The Spine Crawler are not dead yet, but here come the units of the Zerg. Force fields everywhere trying to cut down a small number of units, and he's dealing with all of them. Only one Colossi dies so far. There are Corruptors in the back finally, and apparently Avenge didn't realize it yet. He's not targeting the Corruptors, and all of the Colossus are dead by now. The War Prism dies as well, cutting off the reinforcements, but to no avail. This is the GG. The first game won by Avenge, and once again Metropolis proves to be a very good fighting ground for Protoss players. Alright guys, so the first game ends in favor of Avenge, and we have Bumblebee, and he has to play on the second map, which is going to be Daybreak, a very nice map for Zerg versus Protoss. Bumblebee with a little bit of problem on Metropolis, even though Avenge did not go for the immortal push that we expected him to pull off. Let's see if Daybreak is a little bit of a better turf for Bumblebee. It's definitely a map that's a lot more balanced than Metropolis. I don't really know about the overall win rate of Protoss against Zerg on Metropolis, but I think it is in favor of Protoss by quite a huge margin. So this is going to be an uphill battle for Bumblebee. He has to win 2 games in a row now if he wants to advance in Code A. We have Avenge with a lead after the first game. The players are already in the lobby. We're getting ready for the next game, next match, Daybreak. Just mentioned in today's second game on the stream. And by the way, in case you didn't notice yet, you can open 2 instances of the GOM player. Just press F9 in your GOM player or go to the preference menu, and there's one checkbox that you need to click, and it says something like allow 2 instances of GOM player to run at the same time, and then you can watch not only the B stream but also the main stream from the studio, where you can watch Moletrap and Wolf. So players are just getting ready. I'm not quite sure what we're waiting for right now. Everybody seems to be content. Bumblebee just typing. I hope everything has been resolved with his keyboard, but I think it has. Yes, there's the GL from both of them, and we can start with the match. Bumblebee against Avenge, the second game on Daybreak.